12 facts. That's all this is. No agenda, no revisionism. Just 12 things that, if you sit with them long enough, do something uncomfortable to you. They make you wonder, not about who Michael Jackson was, but about who we were while it was happening. Because there's a version of this story where the most famous human being who ever lived was also one of the most misunderstood. And if you're willing to go there, we're going to go there together. Number 12, MTV's Color Line and the Man Who Forced It Open. Here's something the music industry spent decades quietly hoping you'd forget. In 1983, Billie Jean was the #1 song in America. It had already been at the top of the Billboard Hot 100 for 7 weeks. And MTV, the most powerful music platform on the planet at that moment, refused to air the video. Not because the video was controversial, not because it violated any standards, because Michael Jackson was black. The network had built its identity around rock programming, and executives made it plain that black artists simply didn't fit the format. That's the language they used. The format. As if segregation with better lighting wasn't still segregation. And here's what gets me about this. The song was already a phenomenon. Radio was exploding. Concert tickets were selling in minutes. The man was, by every measurable metric, the most popular artist on earth. She told me her name was Billie Jean, and she caused a scene. And the gatekeepers still said no. So CBS Records president Walter Yetnikoff did something about it. He called MTV and gave them a choice: play Michael Jackson in heavy rotation, or lose every CBS artist on the network. Every single one. He reportedly told them, "I'm going to pull everything we have off the air, and I'm going to go public and tell them you don't want to play a black guy." MTV relented. Billie Jean went into rotation. And within months, Thriller had become the best-selling album in the history of the world. But here's the thing. Michael Jackson didn't get to MTV by being impossible to ignore. He got there because someone finally threatened the right people with the right consequences. Without that threat, we might have a very different story. And none of the artists who came after him. And there are hundreds, would have had the door open the way it was open. If you've ever tried to explain why that era of MTV mattered to someone who wasn't there, you know. It wasn't just music videos. It was who got to be seen. Number 11. Thriller was a record that didn't have to exist. No Thriller. Of course you do. You've known it your whole life. But I want to tell you something about it that most people don't sit with long enough. Michael Jackson had already proven everything he needed to prove. Off the Wall, 1979, platinum. Critically acclaimed. Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Grammy for Best R&B Vocal. By any normal standard, that was the career. That was the destination. His label didn't agree. CBS Records reportedly felt Off the Wall had underperformed relative to Jackson's profile. Imagine being told that after going platinum. So let me hold you tight and share up together. Imagine hearing at 21 years old from the people who were supposed to be in your corner, this wasn't enough. So he went back in. He worked with Quincy Jones again. He pushed himself into territory no pop artist had occupied, R&B, rock, funk, all in the same 42 minutes. And he did it while carrying the weight of a father whose management style involved belts and rehearsal rooms that went until midnight. And a childhood that had been, in his own words, something he never really got to have. Thriller was released on November 30, 1982. It produced 7 top 10 singles. It won 8 Grammy Awards in a single night, still a record. And it went on to sell an estimated 67 million copies worldwide, making it the best-selling album in global music history. On paper, none of that should be possible. 7 top 10 singles from one album. The math doesn't hold, but it happened. And when they handed him the Guinness World Record for it, he stood up at the ceremony and said, "For the first time in my entire career, I feel I'm accomplished." That part still gets me. 67 million copies. And it took a Guinness record for him to feel like enough. That's not a man who had an easy relationship with the world he conquered.
Let's look at the numbers. Only 9% of you are actually subscribed. Honestly, that's tough to see. Our team spends days hunting down archives and verifying every single fact just to tell these stories right. If you've made it this far into the video, you're clearly part of the community, so please hit subscribe. It costs nothing and helps us immensely. Now, for those already subscribed, very few of you have made the jump to our membership, and that's a hard pill to swallow because you're the ones who know our value best. If this channel has moved you or inspired you, consider joining. It's the price of one coffee, but it's the literal fuel for this channel. Let's keep this alive together. Back to the story.
Number 10, the fire nobody warned you about. January 27, 1984, Shrine Auditorium, Los Angeles. Michael Jackson is filming a Pepsi commercial. The kind of thing you do when you're the biggest star on the planet. And a corporation wants to borrow some of that. It was the 6th take. The director had adjusted his mark slightly, moving him closer to the pyrotechnics. The first 5 had gone fine, and then it didn't. The fireworks went off early. Jackson's hair caught fire. And here's the detail that gets under your skin. He kept dancing. He didn't know. Nobody stopped him immediately. And by the time the crew rushed the stage to put out the flames, 2nd and 3rd degree burns had spread across the back of his scalp. He donated the entire $1.5 million settlement from PepsiCo, every dollar of it, to establish the Michael Jackson Burn Center at Brotman Medical Center. The full amount just gone. That part rarely makes the story. But here's what does make the story years later: the painkillers. The burns required reconstructive surgeries, multiple rounds, and the pain from those surgeries required medication, opioids. What started as legitimate medical treatment became, over time, dependency. In 1993, he said it himself in a televised statement from Neverland. The pressure, coupled with the incredible energy necessary for me to perform, caused so much distress that I became increasingly more dependent on the painkillers. The word is more dependent, not newly dependent, more. Which means the addiction started on that soundstage in 1984, not with the allegations, not with the trial, not with whatever story you were told, with the commercial, with the pyrotechnics malfunction, with 30 seconds of fire that nobody stopped fast enough. And the chain that ran from that moment, through the surgeries, through the pain, through the dependency, all the way to June 25, 2009, is one of the most tragic straight lines in the history of popular music. If you were old enough to watch the news that day and feel something you couldn't name, you're not alone. Number 9, the childhood that never was. This one requires you to understand something about where Michael Jackson came from before you can understand anything else about him. Gary, Indiana, late 1950s. Joe Jackson, a former musician himself, discovers his sons can sing. And what begins as a father recognizing talent quickly becomes something harder to sit with. Michael was 5 years old when the Jackson 5 started performing. 5, the age most kids are learning to ride a bike. He was already working, already being evaluated, already afraid to miss a note. In his 1988 autobiography, Moonwalk, he described the rehearsals clearly. If you messed up, you got hit, sometimes with a belt, sometimes with a switch. My father was real strict with us. He told Oprah Winfrey in 1993 that the fear of his father, not the idea of him, the actual physical presence of the man, would make him physically ill. That whenever Joe entered a room, something in Michael shut down, and Joe called him Big Nose, publicly, repeatedly. At the age when you're forming your sense of self, your own father's primary feedback about your face was mockery. Now stay with me here, because the things the world later mocked Michael Jackson for, the surgeries, the way he looked, the obsessive transformation of his appearance, there's a through line from that rehearsal room in Gary, Indiana, to every one of those decisions. A court-appointed medical examiner, working for the prosecution, not the defense, reviewed Jackson's medical records in 1993 and concluded that multiple nasal surgeries were largely reconstructive, driven by the medical complications of lupus. But even setting the medical explanation aside, a man who was told his face was wrong before he could form complete sentences is a man who will spend his life trying to fix it. The tragedy isn't what he became, it's what he had to survive to get there. Number 8, The Skin They Couldn't Forgive. By the late 1980s, the jokes were everywhere. You couldn't turn on late-night television without a Michael Jackson bit about his skin. The tabloids ran cover stories. The narrative was simple, settled, and completely wrong. Michael Jackson didn't bleach his skin to look white. He had vitiligo, a chronic autoimmune disorder that destroys the pigmentation in patches of skin. He also had discoid lupus, a condition that attacks the skin and in his case required reconstructive surgery to address the damage it caused to the tissue around his nose. His dermatologist, Dr. Arnold Klein, first observed the vitiligo in 1983. The same year, he diagnosed Jackson with lupus. To manage the uneven blotching from vitiligo, Jackson used prescription creams and makeup to create a more uniform skin tone. Eventually, it was more consistent to even everything out to lighter, not by choice, but by the biology of what was happening to his body. He confirmed all of this in a 1993 interview with Oprah Winfrey. He said plainly he had vitiligo. He did not bleach his skin. He was proud to be black. The record was public. The interviews were recorded. And the jokes kept running anyway. There's a specific cruelty in mocking someone for a medical condition they didn't choose in front of an audience of hundreds of millions for a decade without ever asking a doctor whether the premise was even accurate. We did that. The culture did that. To a man who, when told his skin was wrong, tried to manage an autoimmune disease with the tools he had and was called a freak for it. Some of y'all just felt something shift reading that. I know. So did I the first time I really sat with it. Number 7, $500 million nobody talked about. Here's a number you probably didn't learn from entertainment news. By some estimates, including records cited by the Los Angeles Times, Michael Jackson donated over $500 million to charity over the course of his lifetime. The Guinness Book of World Records recognized him in 2000 for supporting 39 charities simultaneously, more than any other entertainer in history. He was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize twice, in 1998 and again in 2003. He co-wrote We Are the World with Lionel Richie in 1985, where 45 artists gathered on January 28 to record it in a single night, raising over $60 million for Ethiopian famine relief. He donated the entire $1.5 million Pepsi settlement, already mentioned, to a burn center. He donated his entire take from the 1984 Victory Tour, an estimated $5 million, to charity. He established the Heal the World Foundation in 1992, which airlifted 6 tons of supplies to Sarajevo during the siege. He funded a $1.5 million endowment through the United Negro College Fund in 1986, which still provides scholarships to Black students today. He gave anonymously, constantly. His team repeatedly said that the documented amounts were probably lower than the actual amounts, because he didn't announce most of it. And yet, the decade-long cultural portrait of Michael Jackson was eccentric, damaged, dangerous. Not the most philanthropic entertainer in recorded history. I'd argue he never got a fair accounting of who he actually was outside those recording studios. But I know reasonable people might see it differently. Drop that in the comments. Number 6. The label war nobody covered honestly. Here's where it gets uncomfortable in a different direction. By 2001, Michael Jackson was fighting Sony Music, not subtly, publicly. He stood in London with a sign that read Sony Kills Music. He called Tommy Mottola, then chairman of Sony, a devil, a racist, and a very, very devilish human being at a press conference alongside Reverend Al Sharpton. The accusation: Sony had deliberately stopped promoting his album Invincible in an effort to push him into financial distress and force him to sell his 50% stake in the Sony ATV publishing catalog, a catalog that included the entire Beatles songwriting library. Jackson had purchased ATV Publishing for $47.5 million in 1985. By 2001, that stake was worth a fortune that dwarfed his music earnings. The timeline is specific. Invincible, released October 2001, sold 13 million copies worldwide despite almost no label promotion. Sony canceled the Butterfly single, refused to fund music videos, pulled all promotional support months after release. Jackson's lawyer, who it emerged also worked for Sony, did not flag the conflict. The media coverage of Jackson's public statements was almost universally mocking. Here's Wacko Jacko being paranoid again. Here's the freak with the sign. What wasn't covered? The financial logic of his position was completely coherent. He controlled a publishing catalog worth hundreds of millions of dollars. His label had a direct financial incentive to weaken him, and within months of his most public fight with Sony, he was arrested. The connection is not evidence of conspiracy, but the timeline is real, and it wasn't something the coverage spent much time on. Want to know the strangest part? After Jackson died, Sony bought out the estate's entire half of the catalog for over $1 billion. Number 5, the 1993 settlement that wasn't what you were told. We have to go here carefully, because this is the one fact on this list that carried the most weight, caused the most damage, and has been most consistently misrepresented. In August 1993, allegations of abuse were made by the family of a 13-year-old boy named Jordan Chandler. Jackson denied the accusations. A criminal investigation opened. It ran for over a year. In January 1994, Jackson reached a civil settlement with the Chandler family, reportedly for around $23 million. That's the moment most people point to and say, that's the admission. Here's what actually happened. The criminal investigation found no physical evidence against Jackson. The Chandler family declined to cooperate with prosecutors after the settlement. Without their key witness, the criminal case could not proceed, and it was closed in September 1994. No charges were ever filed from the 1993 investigation. As for why Jackson settled, his legal team documented their reasoning. A civil trial running simultaneously with a criminal investigation in Los Angeles, still raw from Rodney King. The emotional fragility of the defendant. Months of court dates under relentless global media coverage. The judge had refused to delay the civil trial despite the ongoing criminal proceedings. His own legal team's assessment was that, regardless of innocence, a fair jury outcome was not guaranteed. His attorney said it plainly. The settlement was not an admission of guilt. Jackson himself said it was not an admission of guilt. He said he simply could not let the allegations consume the rest of his working life. That's a different story from he paid because he was guilty. It's not a comfortable story. It's not a clean one. But it's the accurate one. And in 2005, after a full criminal trial, 140 witnesses, 14 weeks of testimony, a jury of 8 women and 4 men acquitted him on all 10 counts. Not guilty, unanimous. If you've ever had the court of public opinion reach a verdict before the actual court did, you know exactly how little that acquittal changed for him. Number 4, the medical record the world ignored. There's a version of Michael Jackson's story that his own doctor, a medical expert appointed by the prosecution, not the defense, told in sworn testimony in 1993. Dr. Richard Strick, reviewing Jackson's medical records on behalf of prosecutors, concluded that the primary reason for multiple nasal surgeries was medical, reconstructive. The tissue around Jackson's nose had been progressively damaged and destroyed by discoid lupus. The procedures that the world characterized as vanity, as self-loathing, as a desperate attempt to become someone else, were, in significant part, attempts to repair what a disease had taken. Strick worked for the government. He had no incentive to protect Jackson. His conclusion was the conclusion of the evidence. Combine that with the vitiligo diagnosis, the lupus diagnosis, the burns from the 1984 Pepsi commercial, the reconstructive surgeries required for those burns, and the legitimate pain medication that followed. And the portrait of Michael Jackson as a man who did strange things to his body for mysterious psychological reasons starts to look like something else entirely. It starts to look like a man who spent decades managing compounding medical conditions in public under a level of scrutiny that no human being has ever faced before or since. The iconic appearances, the surgical masks, the umbrellas, the gloves, weren't eccentricity for its own sake. Lupus patients must avoid sun exposure. Vitiligo made his skin hypersensitive. The glove, which the world turned into a punchline, was almost certainly covering uneven depigmentation. We looked at a man managing a disease and called him a freak. And the medical record, the one that exonerated the picture, was available. We just didn't look. Number 3, the trial the media called before the jury did too. 2005, the trial that the world was watching. Michael Jackson was charged with 10 counts: conspiracy, 4 counts of lewd acts upon a minor, attempted lewd acts, and 4 counts of administering an intoxicating agent to a minor. If convicted on all charges, he faced up to 20 years. The media coverage was, by almost any journalistic standard, a verdict delivered before the evidence was heard.
I'm alright. Diana walked up to me. She said I'm.
There were cameras outside the courthouse every day. Analysts offered assessments. The framing was rarely neutral. The jury heard from 140 witnesses over 14 weeks. After 30 hours of deliberations across 7 days, they returned their verdict on June 13, 2005. Not guilty. On all 10 counts, unanimous. The witnesses for the prosecution were, in many cases, characterized by the jury as motivated by money. The accusers' families' credibility was questioned. The core physical evidence did not support the charges. Jackson walked out of court a free man and barely raised his hand to wave at the crowd. He appeared, by every account of people who saw him that day, like someone who had been broken by the process of being proven innocent. He never went back to Neverland. He left for Bahrain, then Ireland. The verdict didn't restore what the trial had cost. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from being acquitted, from winning, from the system doing what it's supposed to do, and realizing that none of it gives back the years it took. You know that feeling when you do everything right, and it still costs everything you had? That's what June 13, 2005 looks like when you study the photograph of his face leaving the courthouse. Number 2, what Neverland actually was. When you say Neverland now, you say it a certain way. You've been taught to. But here's what Neverland actually was, documented, photographed, and testified to by the people who were there. Michael Jackson built a private estate in Santa Barbara that functioned in part as an ongoing open house for sick children. He had a theater built on the property. Equipped with hospital beds built into the walls so that children who were bedridden from cancer could lie down and still watch films and magic shows.
Do you remember how it all began?
He told Oprah Winfrey in 1993, "We have children who are intravenously medicated. They're very sick and they're bedridden. In these beds, they're able to watch."
Oh, do you remember back in the spring?
We show the current films, cartoons, anything so they can escape to that world of magic that they don't get a chance to experience. The world that I was deprived of. Busloads of children from inner city schools came regularly. Terminally ill kids, cancer patients, kids who couldn't afford Disneyland and couldn't get on the rides anyway because their bodies wouldn't let them. He brought 200 children from underprivileged communities to Neverland in December 2004. While he was actively preparing for his own trial, fighting for his freedom, under the kind of pressure that would collapse most people. Because it was Christmas and he didn't cancel on kids. The theater with the hospital beds, that detail never made the tabloids. Not because it wasn't documented, because it didn't sell the story they were selling. Some of you are going to look that up after this. Good, you should. Number 1, the death that was 30 seconds of fire in 1984. We're back where we started. Shrine Auditorium, January 27, 1984. The chain that ran from that stage, from those 30 seconds, extended for 25 years. Through reconstructive surgeries, through legitimate prescriptions that became dependency, through a management crisis, A public breakdown, years of insomnia so severe that the only thing that could quiet his mind was a surgical anesthetic that no ethical doctor administers outside a hospital setting. His personal physician, doctor. Conrad Murray, hired at $150,000 a month to see to Jackson's health as he prepared for 50 comeback concerts in London, was administering propofol. A surgical anesthetic, intravenously as a sleep aid nearly every night for the last 2 months of Jackson's life. On June 25, 2009, Conrad Murray left the room. Michael Jackson went into cardiac arrest. He was pronounced dead at UCLA Medical Center. He was 50 years old. Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter in November 2011 and sentenced to 4 years in prison. But here's the fact underneath the fact. Michael Jackson couldn't sleep, couldn't turn his brain off, had not been able to sleep naturally in years. And the reason, the real reason, the one that runs all the way back, is that in 1984, a pyrotechnics malfunction set his hair on fire. And the treatment for the pain that followed started something that nobody ever fully interrupted. He donated the settlement money. He gave it all away. And 25 years later, the chain that started with the fire ended with him. If you want to know why we owed him an apology, it starts there, with a 6-second fire that nobody stopped. With the burns that required painkillers, with the painkillers that became dependency, with the dependency that required propofol, with the propofol that took him, and with the fact that most of us spent the years in between making jokes.